Have you ever said that I should start a podcast and then you sat on it for years? Now, I don't know how common this is. It is so common inside of people that I talk to. It's absolutely amazing. And that is somewhere within the last 3 to 5 years, they had the impression or the inkling that they should start a podcast, but then they never took action on that podcast. We also have those who somebody close to them can see their podcast voice. Some people, man, they just got it. And I actually feel a tad bit jealous of the people that do have that podcast voice, because I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had that voice, I would already be a millionaire, right? But anyways, you got people that have that podcast voice and or they got charisma, they know how to speak well, all of these different things. And then they have the people in their life saying, hey, you should start a podcast. And then they sit on it. They think it's a good idea. They even respond back, hey, that's a great idea. I should do that. And then they don't do anything with it. Okay. We have those two different kind of people. And then we have those which fall under this category, which is a lot too. Okay. And that is, they took it a step further and they bought the mic. And the reason why I'm laughing is because I'm thinking of a real funny joke with this. It's funny to me. It may not be funny to you. But the podcast mic is kind of like a treadmill. And that the newly inspired people who want to lose weight, they go out and buy the expensive Sam's model treadmill that is $2,000 to $4,000, and they put it up in one of their spare rooms. And what does it do? We know what it does. It collects dust. The podcast mic is the treadmill for influencers. And that is, we decided that we were going to take some sort of action. And so we went out and we bought the mic, and it's sitting there collecting dust. In fact, I spoke to somebody last week who told me that they bought the mic a couple of years ago and it's sitting there and that they've been meaning to get around to it. Okay. So this is just the reality, right? This is just, it is. So I'm calling it out. Whether you're the person who said, I should start a podcast, and you've been contemplating for years and you've set it to the side. Someone told you should start a podcast, and or you went out and bought the mic and you haven't took action. I'm calling all of you out. It is time to get off the fence. It is time to dust off the microphone. It is time to take action. And I'm going to explain to you the reason why you should do this. Okay? Now, let me set the frame for you. Is that anybody who starts a podcast shouldn't have the mind of, well, I'm just starting a podcast. You should be absolutely clear about the outcomes that you want to achieve. Now, I heard an influencer recently, and it disturbs me. Some of the things that he said, I'm not going to call his name out personally because I'm not that kind of person. But I'm going to call out the mindset and the frame behind it. And this guy is like reaching millions and millions of people, and he's spreading this kind of message. And the message was, remember, he's a podcaster and he is podcasting to people and business people that are following. You can go ahead and launch a podcast, but don't ever expect to make money. And then he gives the stats of those who actually make money and those who give up and fail. And I understand where he's coming from the sense of there are a lot of people that launch a podcast that drop out before the 12th episode. So I understand where he's coming from. And then I understand also that there are a lot of people that don't particularly know how to make money online. Okay, I get it. But let's set those aside for a second. If, and this is the frame that I want to give you, if you do not set your expectations from the beginning, then you are actually going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy and you are going to get what you expect, right? So I'm going to launch this podcast, but I'm never expecting that I'm going to get influence or downloads. Yeah, I'm going to start this podcast, but I'm never going to expect making any money from it. I'm just going to do it as a hobby. Yeah, I'm going to create this podcast, but I don't think it's going to get me into networks and circles and places that I've never been. And let me tell you that a podcast success starts first with your mindset. And that is, you cannot come into it with a mindset that says that I'm doing this as a hobby. I have no intention to make money. I'm not going to create credibility. I'm not going to create influence. I'm just going to do this. Now, let me say first off that there's nothing wrong with doing something for fun. Okay? And if your intention is to start a podcast for fun and get some buddies together and talk, there's nothing wrong with that. What I am attacking that there is something wrong with, that you are a business owner and an influencer and you have thoughts and ideas that can shape culture and you have courses that you can lead people to, you have transformation that they can experience, to come into a podcast and say, well, whatever it does, que sera, sera. And or I don't expect this to take off or to create any money or influence. Let me just like smash that limiting belief right now. Because if you start a podcast with that frame, let me tell you, you are going to lose your intentionality. I want you to think of intentionality like this. I want you to think of intentionality as your future self, the projection of who you see yourself to be 3 to 5 years down the road. And that guy has got massive influence with his podcast. He's got thousands upon thousands of downloads. He's building a network. He's got courses. He's got all of these different things. And you look at that and see that and you get drawn to it. Think about this mindset for a minute. You got two people, okay? The two people are, one says, I'm not going to do this. I don't expect anything to happen with this podcast. I don't think that it's going to give me cash flow, credibility, influence, or impact. I don't think it's going to do that. And I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. That guy. And you compare it with the other guy who says that I am building something that is going to bring me cash flow. I'm going to get massive amount of credibility from this. I'm going to build my network. This is going to be the foundation for my influence, and I'm going to create impact through this. You tell me in 3 to 5 years' time, which one do you think is going to be successful? This is why I'm getting to the heart and to the mindset of podcasting. You got to get your head right first, okay? You can't go into this thing with that mindset. So it starts first with this. I'm going to give you permission to be successful. Now, it may sound weird, but I'm going to give you permission because I want you to give yourself permission to be successful. It all starts here. Now, let me tell you a little bit of a story about myself. I was born on the wrong side of the tracks. We are on welfare and drug culture. The future and the mindset is so limited and so narrow. If we can get our government money, if we can get our nut money, if we can get support, man, we can ride this government benefit package the rest of our life. This is the culture and the frame that I grew up in. And so that being said, I had a lot of limiting beliefs around money, around success, on about what I can accomplish, and or how dare I be the crab that jumps out of the basket. How dare I be something different, right? And so I had to give myself permission to succeed. And the reason I say that's because I am giving you absolute permission. You can create the podcast business that you want. You can have the credibility and the influence you want. I give you permission to receive that. Now, the question is, Are you going to give yourself permission? Are you going to grab a hold of it? Okay. So let's start right here with I give myself permission to be completely successful with my message. That is the thing that comes out of my mouth. I give myself permission to thrive and to be prosperous with the words that come out of my mouth. I give myself permission. Starts right there, okay? So if you don't create the cash flow, the credibility, and the impact and the influence, if you don't set your intention, you're not going to receive it. And if you don't do this, you're going to shrink yourself. You're going to shrink your message. Now, let me tell you, it's not because there's something wrong with you. It's because you haven't got into the mindset behind success and what that is going to look like in the future. You haven't seen your future self. Let me tell you, I've seen my future self and I know the future and I see who it is that man is. And I have aligned myself with who I am becoming. If you don't do that, there ain't nobody in the world going to take you serious. I'm sorry. This is found. Nobody is going to take you serious. And so that's why it starts here. Okay. Now, one thing that we have to do is stop chasing what it is that is kind of the dopamine hit culture. We think that is going to create the influence that we're looking for. And let me tell you, I've worked with so many people that had far more reach than me. And I'm not talking about a handful. I'm talking about dozens upon dozens of people that have had more reach and friends and whatever than me. And they weren't making any money. They weren't building any credibility. They were being people's social media dope dealer. And that is, they were hitting the dopamine and the pleasure responses, and the system wants to turn us into drug dealers for social media. Here, let's give people a hit so they feel better. Now, let me tell you, none of that is going to create the cash flow, the credibility, and the influence that you're looking for. In fact, Alex Hormozy said recently that he's once again making sure that he's going all in on his long form podcast content, and that he's going to shift to make sure that he's doing interactive and these things. And let me tell you the psychology and the reason behind it is that while the masses are in short form dopamine hits and all these different things, that is for kind of the lower, for people looking for higher stuff. They're not going to get what they need from a short form little content. They are looking for a deep dive. They are looking for strategy. They're looking for the mindset, the psychology behind things. They are looking for the deeper things. So you can continue to focus your content to the people that will never take action, or you can begin to focus your content on the people that will. And let me explain a little bit more about the mindset behind this, okay? Is that, let's say short form real content, you got 30 seconds, okay? You got 30 seconds to grab somebody's attention. And how many 30 seconds is it going to take to lead up to an hour of that person consuming your content? Well, it's pretty easy math, okay? That you break it down the minutes, you break it down half, 120. So they're going to have to watch 120 of your 30-second clips to equal an hour. Now, the hour or the 2-hour range is where you convince somebody to take action, okay? Now, think about this dynamic, is that I need somebody to take action and they have to see an hour's worth of my content. They're going to have to see 120 of my reels to kind of be fully convinced. So it's going to take them 120 times to see my reels. And let me tell you, they're not going to see them every single day. No, some people will, some people won't. But let's just say, for statistics' sake, let's see they see one every third day. That is going to take them a year to build up what you could do in one day. Now, are you understanding the science behind this? If I can get somebody to consume an hour's worth of my content, they're going to be far ready to take action in one day than one person who consumes my short form content. They're not going to be ready to take any form of action until about 1 year. And they probably won't even do that because they're just on the pipe. They're just the dope fiends, man. They're just people looking for the high. Let me tell you, you're not going to build any traction with people looking for a high. You're not. And that's just the truth. Okay. So the attention economy, that is what's being rewarded on social media, is the dopamine hits. It is the loudest, the most obnoxious, the most trendy, the most political thing, the one who is slinging stones from their different heels, these people. And so the algorithm is rewarding the loud. But let me tell you, the people that actually gain trust are not the ones who are out there slinging stones and doing all of these things. These are the people that are talking about real things, real steps, real strategies, real life stuff. Those are the people that are compounding trust. All right. Now, that being said, we have to tap into the idea that money is not greed. Let me tell you, money is just fuel. And if you are mission-minded, mission-oriented, you should have no problem making money. So let's make sure that we're busting through that limiting belief now. I am going to make money through my podcast or through my show or through social media. And it's not me being greedy. It is me giving fuel to the mission. The biggest way to cut off the mission is to cut off the fuel. You have to have money for the mission. You have to have money for the margin inside of your life. You want to create more time and space for your life to think, to execute on things that actually move the needle forward. You're going to have margin. And there's nothing that creates margin more than money. You want to create momentum for everything that you're building? You got to feel like you're stacking wins, not stacking losses. You got to see a pathway to where this is going to work. You have to feel the momentum. You have to know that you're going somewhere. All right. And that comes through permission for me to make money through what I'm doing, the content that I am creating. Okay. Money's not greedy. Now, one thing we have to talk about too is status, because a podcast is going to give you status. Now, what I am not talking about is the kind of animalistic, Darwinistic sort of mindset that says like status is everything and you got to be the king of the jungle and you got to beat people into domination and submission and all of this different stuff. That's what I'm not saying. But what I am saying is status is important to you. Status is important to me. Now, you may not see this or understand how that plays out, but status is really important to me. And let me explain the reason why. It's not ego. It's not like I'm thinking, well, I need this status in order to puff me up or to inflate my ego because I'm insecure and have low self-worth. That's all the world stuff. That's all vanity. Okay. I'm not talking about status like that. The status that I am talking about is that I got trust weight, and that is people take me seriously. They have seen that I have a successful podcast that is top 2.5% in the world, and I show up consistently week in and week out in my podcast on social media, and that I am creating and building something. People take me serious. That's status. That I've launched hundreds and hundreds of podcasts through elite coaches that are far more successful than me. That I've worked with the likes of celebrities and with teams that people would just dream and wish they could work with, right? And so status has more to do with trust weight. And that is people trust you to begin to show up and that you have something good to say. Okay. Status in social media and the podcast world looks like they listen to you. Someone without status is, I'm not listening to them. They don't have credit. They don't have any form of credibility. You don't want to be The person with low status. Okay. Now, on a podcast, that means they return to you weekly. They share your podcast with other people. When you speak, it carries a sense of weight to it. You want to have status. So, what I'm going to go into now is how to create that status. Now, first off is clarity. Number one, remember this, clarity. The first C, clarity. People instantly know who you are, what you're about, what your message is, where you're taking them. Like, there is no doubt that the people to run into my content on social media, they're going to get one or two impressions. One is that I am a podcaster that helps people launch podcasts, get their message out there. And two is that I'm highly concerned about men in their mental health and inside of their spiritual growth and development. You cannot run into my content and not know what I'm about. I'm about one of those two things because this is what I'm building. So clarity, people instantly know who it's for and what it does. Okay. Consistency, second C, is that you keep your promise, the promise of your show transformation of where you are taking them, and promise inside of trust and reliance that they can depend upon you to show up every single week without fail. They can trust in you. Consistency. See, trust is built by reps. Let me break down the psychological side of trust. Trust is always correlated to track record, right? You know this subconsciously inside of relationships, that trust is earned based upon track record. And that is over a period of time, that person has been consistently has shown this, and thereby my brain can now deem them as reliable and worthy of some sort of access, greater access to you, worthy of a relationship. One of the things you should never, ever do, this is a relationship side note, I'm interested in the mindset and mental health of men. You should never, ever allow someone close access who is not trustworthy or reliable. And many people pick our partners based upon other things other than track record. This should not be done. So anyways, track record. Now, if somebody, let's take this into a marriage example, that if your wife has developed a track record of inconsistency when it comes to faithfulness, right? For years and years and years, she had a track record of faithfulness. And now all of a sudden it's beginning to slip. Okay. Would you notice? Yeah, eventually you're going to notice. But what is going to develop is a new track record. And that is a track record of unfaithfulness and inconsistency. And we do this all the time on social media. We are communicating to the world whether we are worthy of trust or not every single day. Are we showing up on social media? Are we working our plan? Are we posting? Are we visible? Are we showing up with the podcast? And then the moment we start slipping is like, nah. What we're communicating is that we are unreliable. We are not faithful and we are not being consistent. Okay. Third C is conversion. You see, you give, that trust is built for something, right? Now in a relationship, it's, if it was a man and a girl, that the relationship of trust and intimacy is going to increase over time, and it's going to lead, forgive me of my crude and crassness, but it's probably going to lead to a transaction. It's going to lead to a deposit. And so when we look at this as a sales analogy, is that you are speaking life and you're planting seeds and you're doing all of these different things. And the only logical outcome is that it's going to lead to some sort of transaction. Now, the same way a relationship, the transactions increase, right? Start out by going on a date. I don't need to explain to you how relationships progress, right? You might start by getting the number, holding hands, talking on the phone for hours. You understand how it progresses. And so your podcast should begin to take them to the next step. Okay. And sometimes that's just a baby step, but you got to be thinking of conversion. What am I leading them to? Okay. So clarity looks something like this, is that I can communicate with one sentence that this show helps who? Who is this show going to help? What is it going to help them do? And where am I taking them? So if you are vague here, stop. In fact, if you're vague here in any sort of course, book, social media, podcast, if you are vague here, stop. Clarity is needed, because everything you craft should be able to answer that question. I'm here live today. I'm talking to a certain person. I'm talking to a person who is in pre-contemplation and or contemplation stage to launching a podcast. This live is here to help them see their future self and to take action so they can experience the same thing I'm experiencing, which is cash flow, credibility, influence, and impact. Okay. This live has a purpose. So get super, super clear. Don't be vague here. Okay. Get super, super clear. Now, let me tell you, if you get clear here, let me tell you what's going to happen is you're most likely not going to give up, because people who are not clear here are not going to see results. That's just the bottom line. And so 12 episodes or 6 months in, they're going to see that it's not worth it. So they're going to give up. Now, for you tenacious people like me, because I lived in that stage for years. I've been doing this for 8 years. Okay. I have a show with 400 plus episodes, and I've had shows before that. Okay. I've been doing this for a long time. And so I've had a year or two, because I'm tenacious, because I'm like, I'm going to do this thing and I'm going to press through, that the first couple of years I was not clear at all. And so my results weren't clear either. And I wasn't making any money, and I was fumbling around and doing all of these different things. Okay. And that is, this right here will keep you from giving up. It'll keep you from fumbling in the dark, and it will keep you on course, and it'll get you success a lot sooner. And that is my goal, is to get you to start stacking wins so you press on and you carry on and you can be successful. Okay. So consistency is a schedule that you can keep. It is a rhythm that can survive your real life, not an over-promising, not I'll try to do this. It is something that can actually, you can do. You can pull this off, okay? That's where trust is going to be kept. And conversion, it's not manipulation. It's a call to action. It's for them to take the next step with you. Your podcast should make people hungry. It should make people thirsty. It should make people want them to begin to work with you. Okay. So say this with me. If you're still listening, or if you're listening on a later date on a podcast, say this with me. Your message deserves a business model, and your audience deserves consistency. So what you're going to do from the outcome of this is that you're going to clarify in one sentence what you are going to be about. You're going to pick how you are going to post, how you're going to show up, and you are going to think of the next step that you want them to take. If you get clear on the one sentence that this podcast is for and where it's taking them, and you get clear about how you're going to consistently show up, and you're going to put that in your calendar and how it's going to work, and you have a next step for them to take, you are on your way to the success that I'm talking about. Okay? So, start a podcast? Yes, but please don't start it like everybody else. Do you know the statistics of failure of shows? It's absolutely ludicrous. I mean, there are millions upon millions of shows out there, and some 400,000 that are actually active. You do the math. Millions upon millions, and thousands are only active. People thought it was a good idea. So don't start a podcast like everybody else. Start from this foundation. Build like it matters. See, the attention economy is going to beg that you start being a dope dealer and start hitting people with dopamine and all that different stuff. But let me tell you, there are people that are starving for real stuff. They're starving for content that actually produces transformation. And you could be the person who steps up. Okay. You are going to build cash flow. You are going to build credibility, set your intention. You are going to have influence. You're going to have impact. You are going to build a trust compounding machine. Remember this. If you don't remember anything, remember this. Your audience deserves your consistency. That's how you don't just show up and post episodes. That's how you reach the vision of your future self, of what you see that you can have and obtain through this show. Thanks for following along. I will see you again soon. Hope you have an awesome day.